So hello everyone, today I'm going to make a new video about tips and tricks for making a good CV, attractive CV and a convincing motivation letter. I got few comments on the previous video about tips and tricks for applying to Erasmus, about how to make the CV and motivation letter in a quite brief video. So that video was quite long, so this time I'm making a very short video but with lots of information, but a brief video. So before applying to Erasmus program, you have to first make sure which program suits you the best. So there are 80 programs. I have given the link to all those 80 programs in the description. So you can select, you can choose which program suits you the best, and after making the selection, then you can apply for 3 programs. In each intake you can apply up to maximum of 3 programs, but for all the programs you have to apply separately. So when you make a CV for a particular program, you have to make the particular CV, because it's not good you use the same CV for all the programs you apply, because in your CV you have to write only those things that are relevant to the program that you are applying for. In that way you can make a strong CV, and also for the motivation letter as well. So I will be talking about a few tips for making a good CV, attracting CV and a convincing motivation letter. So at first, as I said, you have to choose a right program for yourself, the program that fits your interest, and also the program in which your academic background suits well. So after selecting the program, then it comes about writing a motivation letter. Or the motivation letter can be in 2 types. When you apply for Erasmus program, it can be whether answering to the motivation question, like giving the motivation answer for the questions given in the application page, or you write a general descriptive motivation letter. So if it is about answering the particular questions that have been asked in the application, then you have to make sure when you answer those questions, there are the limitation of characters, like 1000 characters for one question. You have to accommodate your answer in 1000 characters, including the spaces. So you have to be very precise. It's not good to describe what is already in your CV when you are answering the question or writing a motivation letter. So avoid repeating the things that has been already mentioned in your CV. You just describe why are you the best candidate for the program. Like in any question, your answer has to be very precise and relevant to the question, but at the same time you have to showcase why are you the deserving one. Like in the crowd of many people, you have to be selected, so you have to make it really strong, and you have to be very precise as well. So never don't make it too long describing the importance of that program, but rather describe the importance of yourself for the program. So in that way your answer can be more strong, and you can show yourself as a more deserving candidate than others. So and talking about CV, I would be like giving you the model of a CV that I prepared long ago. I would be showing that in the video as well. So there are always things like what you have to show in your CV and what you should not show in your CV. So in your CV you have to mention about your education, working experiences, volunteering jobs you did, or any jobs like professional jobs you did, your research interest, any academic achievements or grants that you won, and also your experiences, professional experiences and other relevant experiences for the program that you are applying for. And also sometimes it is good to provide some detail about the course you took in your undergraduate study that might be relevant to your program, like to the program that you are applying for. Because for example, if you are applying for plant science, then any course of molecular biology can be very important if you just mention the course you took, because that course is really important when you apply for plant science. So it's just an example, it can be anything when you apply for a particular program. And also like the CV, when you apply for want to make your CV, there is also the format of CV, like European format of CV, that the link to the European format of CV is given in the description of this video as well, so you can see the different formats of any European countries that you are applying for. And also I would be talking about the motivation letter and also CV again, like showing a model. So at first let me go to the CV. As you can see in the video, in the CV, in the top right corner, like in the header, it's good to mention your name and email, because when the evaluation committee, the person of evaluation committee, they are looking CV and they go to the next page, like obviously in the first page you mention your name and details, but in the second page, if there is no detail, like they don't know which CV they are looking for sometimes, because sometimes it may not be stapled, so it's always good to be in the safe side. So it's good to mention your name and email on the top right corner in the header of your CV, so that it will appear in each page. So you start with your name, and it's good to write when you are writing your name, it's good to separate like first name and last name, as you can see in the format I have shown, first name / last name and then your name and last name, and write your email, date of birth, nationality. And it's good to mention like if it's good to hyperlink your LinkedIn profile in your CV, because these days LinkedIn is a very nice social media to know about yourself. It is a professional one, so it's good to mention give the hyperlink to your LinkedIn profile. And then you mention about the education, and when you mention about the education, this is my format, like I prepared this long ago. What I suggest is good, like for me it is good. So when you mention about education, then in the left hand side you mention the date, and in the right hand side you mention the degree and a brief detail, like what was your education. So in that way you can go on. Then you can mention about your research interest, and then the next heading would be the academic projects that you accomplished so far. This section is really important, and you can highlight here the projects you did that are relevant to the program that you are applying for. And the next section would be your publication, if you have made any, because if you have some publication, then it really counts a lot when you apply to any program. And if you have many publications, then you can give the link of the Google profile, Google Scholar profile. If you have already published few papers, then it is good to make a Google Scholar profile, and so that you don't have to mention all the reference of the publication you did in the CV. So just mention few that is really important, that is relevant and important, just like 2 or 3, and then you can give the link to your Google Scholar profile. Then you can mention about your work experiences in the same way, left hand side date and right hand side the employment history. And then you can mention about the personal skills and competencies that you have, and also the academic achievements, awards and grants that you won so far. So for me that's all about the CV. And at the end, this is optional, you can like write a declaration statement. This is just optional, you can write, or you may not write as well, this depends on you. So this is about the CV, and as I said earlier, you can also check the European format of CV from the link in the description, that might help you. So now let's move on to motivation letter. So how to make your motivation letter stronger. So my suggestion would be when you start your motivation letter, in the first paragraph you can just start with what is your main interest. Like if I have to apply for a program in plant science, then I would start a statement that is quite attracting, you know, like that just draws the attention of the person who is reading your motivation letter, from a person from the evaluation committee. The starting sentence, if it is really attractive, then it makes some sense, and you know, like it increases your chances. So it is good to start with the major interest that is also relevant to the world or humanity or the program you are applying for. So that is like a kind of tricky sentence, you know. And then a little background information of your interest, just in brief, because it is the first paragraph of your motivation letter. So a starting sentence, then a little background information of your interest, then how do you want to follow your interest. How, because this how question should be matching with the answer why are you applying for the program. So this is really important. And coordinate the flow with what are you applying for with a little reason why. As I said, start with the starting sentence, a catchy one, then a little background information of your interest, then how do you want to follow your interest, and coordinate the flow with what are you applying for with a little reason why. This is the first paragraph, and you can make it up to 10 to 14 lines at maximum. And then start the second paragraph. In the second paragraph, give a brief information about your academic background, just in brief, because you have already mentioned in your CV. So just in brief, just to relate why are you applying for that program, and in brief how your academic background matches or fits you for the project you are applying for. And then what specific had you learned during your undergraduate study? What specific did you learn that is going to help you for that project you are applying for? And what is your main objective? Like, if you are selected, then what is your main objective? What do you want to do? What do you want to learn? What is your desire to learn? So this makes sense, because if I'm a person in the evaluation committee, then I would see why this person is applying, and if he gets this chance, then what is he going to do, or how is this going to change his life? So I would definitely see this. So this is the second paragraph, is the one where you try to connect these things. Then how can program help you? As I said, how can program help you if you are selected? You show your interest, you describe your background, you say how your background fits for the project, and what is your main desire or objective to learn from that program, and how can program help you to change something. So this is the second paragraph, and it can be up to 10 to 18 lines in maximum. And then comes the third paragraph, and the third paragraph is really very important, because you describe your strengths in this third paragraph. What are your strengths? You can mention about what you know, what you really know that is relevant to the project. It can be your qualities or any other abilities other than you have mentioned in your CV. It is something that your CV doesn't describe more. Obviously in your CV you mention your strong points, but this is something like, for example, if I'm applying to a course of molecular biology, then in this paragraph I would mention like I have some great statistical knowledge, I have some great abilities about playing with cores in R and bioinformatics. So this is something like that, because in my CV I won't mention I won't describe I know this and that. I just mention I have some knowledge on that. So this is something quite relevant to your CV, but something your CV really doesn't speak more. So this is the strengths. This paragraph should describe your real strengths and why are you the best candidate. Just describe why are you the best candidate among all other candidates that have applied to the program, and why should program select you. Explain why you are important for the program. In this, like in none of the paragraph, you should not explain more why the program is important, but it's good you explain why you are important for the program. Why are you the deserving one? What happens if you are selected? So this third paragraph is really important, and it connects these all things. So now comes the last paragraph, fourth paragraph, that is the last paragraph. And I forgot to mention the third paragraph can be 6 to 10 lines, not more than that. And the last paragraph is the conclusive paragraph. Here you summarize everything in a few sentences. You just summarize what you will become if you are selected in the program, and you highlight a brief importance. I said as I said earlier, in none of the paragraph you mention like the program is very important. You don't have to do that. That is unnecessary. But in this paragraph, in the fourth paragraph, you just give a brief highlighting of the importance of the program for you, because it is the conclusive paragraph. So you just give a brief highlight as mentioning the importance of the program for yourself, and a conclusive note for the motivation letter. So that is all about the motivation letter, and this paragraph can be 5 to 8 lines. And I would like to suggest few things about what to write in your CV and what not to write. As I said earlier, in your CV you can write about the education, research interest, academic projects you completed, reference papers or publications, work experiences, personal skills and competencies, awards and grants, and that's all. But what you should not write in your CV is you don't repeat things, and don't make your CV descriptive, rather make it objective, and it is good to write things in bullets. And what you should not do in motivation letter is don't repeat the things that you have already mentioned in CV. Don't break the consistency and coherence between the paragraphs and sentences you have written, and never use complex language in your motivation letter. Just make it very simple and sweet. So motivation letter, talking about the length of motivation letter, if you write in 12 font size in Calibri, then it can be up to like 1 page and a half. It can be accommodated in that, because it is always, you know, about motivation letter, less is good, not more. Like if you write too much, then it can be more than 2 pages. That is really not good. If I am a person to evaluate someone's motivation letter, then if it is more than 2 pages, I would not even look it. So make it short. 1 page is very nice if you can accommodate everything, but sometimes we have to write what we really have to write some important things, and it makes up to like 1 page and a half. That is still good, but never make it more than 2 pages, not even 2 pages complete. 1 page and a half is very nice, sweet. If 1 page, then that is always good, but sometimes it is very hard to make it very concise to 1 page, so 1 and a half is very nice. So these are the things about motivation letter and CV. And in your CV, never write about your religion, never write about your political views. That is just unnecessary. And always try to highlight your interest and strengths in your motivation letter, as I mentioned earlier. And okay, one main thing about the recommendation letters. So who should write your recommendation letters? It can be, he or she can be your professor, supervisor from your undergraduate studies, or anyone whom you have closely worked with. So they can write, and it's always good, like if your recommender should be someone who knows your strengths and abilities, and you have closely worked with him or her. So that's why they can write very nicely about you. So never ask someone who doesn't know you well to write recommendation letter for yourself, because it doesn't have to be like, for example, there are 2 professors in your university. One is really great professor, but he cannot write good about you, and one is medium professor, but he can write very nicely about you. So go for the medium one, because you need someone who can write really nicely about you, who can say good about you. So that is the thing, really important while you ask for your recommendation letters. So I don't know if there are some more points. So this is the thing about CV, motivation letter, and recommendation letter. And I hope you really enjoyed this video, and I would be very happy if you give the thumbs up and share to this video. Also subscribe this channel, and please share this video in your social network, so many students they can easily apply for Erasmus or any other scholarship to study abroad. So thank you. Bye bye.